Hello, and welcome to my summer car. I'm chrissimgamer. In this video we will be hopefully building our Satsuma, alongside interacting with the locals, maintaining our health and working to pay our bills. We have already accumulated 24,000 marks, but we'll soon spend most of that on the items I have ordered.
No se on Teimo sieltä kaupalta, terve. Sulle tuli postin mukana tämmönen pakettitilla.
And right on cue, it was Timo at the local convenience store. Right, Timo has telephoned to tell me that our packages have arrived at his shop. Let's drive there as fast as we can and pick them up. Okay, we're just going to quickly stop at Fleetari's garage to pick up a couple of items I had my eye on previously. Shouldn't take a second. If it isn't my boy Racer, alcoholic, cousin.
Ei saatana. Mene säkin kotiin.
Let's go. Oh shit. Bugger. Well, that's a pain in the arse. Bloody hell. This is an absolute sodding mission. Cousin again. Don't stop for me then. Knob Ed. Okay, finally. So dehydrated. Thank God. May as well stop the night at Timo's pub. Cheers, mate. Ah, my food. Night, Timo. See you in the morning, matey. Well, it's finally morning and Timo has reopened the shop and we have now paid for and retrieved our long-awaited packages. Time to get them back home. Christ, cousin, you pissing maniac. The phone.
Oi, meidän likakaivo olisi ihan täyttä aaseet. Tulisiks putsailemaan sen?
Another sewage job.
Et jos viittesit
They are
tulla,
building up.
Niin mä sit
We will have to go out in the truck soon. Especially now our marks are down to only 2,000. We are turning into, right, shopaholics. What?
Terve vaan, että meidän tämä paskakaivo olisi täyttynyt paskasta taas, että tulisitko
Bugger off. I want to set up my new PC. Wow. How 20th century. Computer. Monitor. Keyboard and mouse. And speakers. Looking good. Now to plug it in. It works. We shall have to research how to set it up later. After hours and hours of working and earning enough money for parts, I think we finally have everything we need to make a start on building our little car. I really shouldn't put it off any longer. After all, it is the aim of the game. Okay, let's make a start. First we put the crankshaft in the engine block. Next, to attach the 3 main bearings. And we need a 9mm spanner to do up the 6 bolts. Now to place the 4 pistons into the cylinders. And to attach them to the crankshaft, we need to flip the block upside down. Tighten the 8 bolts with spanner 7. Flip the block over again and place the head gasket. Next, we shall attach the cylinder head to the block and tighten the 10 bolts with spanner 7. And attach the rocker shaft and tighten the 5 bolts with spanner 8. Slide in the camshaft and do up the 2 bolts with spanner 5. Now attach the cam gear onto the camshaft with a spanner 10. Be sure that the marks on the gear, crankshaft, and block line up. Next, attach the timing chain. Then attach the timing cover and do up the 6 bolts with spanner 6. Then attach the water pump and do up the 5 bolts with spanner 7. Attach the crankshaft pulley. Tighten the bolt with spanner 11. Then, the water pump pulley. Tighten the 4 bolts with spanner 7. Then pop in the distributor and do up the screw with a screwdriver. Next, attach the alternator and tighten both bolts. One is a size 7 and the other bolt is a size 10. You can tighten the screw after attaching and adjusting the tightness of the alternator belt later. Attach the engine plate. And then the starter motor. Tighten the 2 bolts with spanner 7. Next is the carburetor. You will need to tighten up the 4 bolts with spanner 8. Now we will attach the exhaust manifold. And we will tighten all 5 bolts with spanner 8. Now for the flywheel. We will tighten up all 6 bolts with spanner 7. Let's attach the clutch pressure plate to the clutch cover plate. And then the clutch disc to the rest of the clutch assembly. Then we'll attach the clutch to the flywheel. And tighten up the 6 bolts with spanner 6. Now it is a good idea to attach the engine hoist to the engine before we continue the assembly. We are listening out for a metallic ping. And now the bolts have appeared. Let's tighten them both with spanner 10. And now the engine is on the hoist. Now let's carefully maneuver it to where we can continue to work on it. The next step is to attach the oil sump. And tighten the 8 bolts with spanner 7. Not forgetting the sump plug with spanner 13. Now, with a screwdriver, let's adjust the rockers. We are looking to tighten all 8 screws as tight as they will go, and then loosen each one by 7 clicks. This apparently is the sweet spot on the Satsuma engine. Now slide in the alternator against the engine so that we can apply the alternator belt. Then slide the alternator back out to tighten the belt. You don't want it running too tight though, so loosen it again by a couple of clicks. And tighten the screw with your screwdriver to secure the position of the alternator. Next, we will bolt on the gearbox. It's one size 10 bolt here. And then after we have placed on the inspection cover, it's another 6 bolts in size 7. Next is to insert the drive gear. There are 7 size 6 bolts to tighten. Now we can attach the engine head cover. and do up the 6 bolts with spanner 7. Now let's screw on the oil filter. This can be tightened by hand. Now to place in our new spark plugs. To tighten them to the correct torque, let's tighten them with the spark plug socket. Now let's attach the fuel pump and do up the 2 bolts with spanner 7. Now all that is needed to complete the engine assembly is to attach the air filter. The 2 bolts do up with spanner 6. And that is the engine complete. Oh, the phone. Yo.
Sirkka mummo täällä soittaa. Etkö sitä pääsis kaupasta?
Grandma has phoned. She is asking if we are able to drive to the shop and deliver her some sugar, milk and sausages. I don't see why we shouldn't. It will give us a bit of a break from building the car anyway. Besides, I should really fill up the van with some diesel.
Nyt se olisi oikein sinun näköinen homma tässä. Käy jakamassa näitä H-kaupan mainoksia tuonne kyläläisille. Kiitos ja hyvää päivän jatkoa.
Okay, we have got the shopping for Grandma. Time to drive to see her. This is Grandma's address. And there she is, with a cup of coffee ready for us. Everything you wanted.
Ja siinä on sulle vähän rahaa, ota kun sinä kuitenkin sitä tarvit.
Thanks for the coffee and the money. Goodbye, Grandma. Anyway, back to building the car. We'll start by jacking the front end up in the air. And we will attach the subframe. We need to screw up the 4 bolts with spanner 10. Next, seat the steering rack. And do up the 4 bolts with spanner 9. Then, we need to insert the steering column. Do up the 2 bolts with spanner 8. Then attach wishbone right and wishbone left. Tighten the 4 bolts, 2 on each wishbone, with spanner 10. Next, we need to attach spindle left. And spindle, right. And tighten the bolt on each spindle with spanner 12. Now it's the steering rods. Don't tighten the bolts just yet. First we must attach the hubs and discs. And also both prop shafts. Only now can we tighten up the bolt on each hub with spanner 14. Now it's time to attach our new rally suspension struts. The bottom bolt is a size 12. And the top three are a size 10. There are 4 size 9 bolts to tighten on the back of each strut that attaches them to the hubs. With fully customizable suspension, you need to start by making sure that the left and the right struts are equal before adjusting them to your liking. I have gone for a more OCD setting. The last part of the front side running gear is the front wheels. Tighten the wheel nuts with spanner 13. And that is the front suspension complete. The car is really starting to take shape. Now for the back suspension. First, attach the trail arms. They each have 2 size 12 bolts to tighten. Next, seat both of the coil springs. The next step is to install the shock absorbers. They each have a 12mm bolt at the top, with 2 6mm bolts at the bottom. Now we can fit the drums. And tighten the 14mm bolts. Now let's stick on the rear wheels. And tighten all of the 13mm wheel nuts. Now we have finished with the car jack. Looking nice. Now the wheels are fitted, we need to align the tracking. For this, it will be easier if we carefully push the car into the garage so that we can work in the pit underneath the car. With our 14mm spanner, adjust the nut on the track rod end so that the right wheel is steering to the right, and that the left wheel is steering to the left. Then bring the wheels back 60 clicks each. They should then both be pointing dead straight. Also, now is the perfect time to adjust your rear suspension struts. Now, there is a nice looking carburetor in my magazine that I would really like to buy, but it is 1,750 marks. There are a few septic tank jobs up for grabs, so I think we should go and do them to make a little bit of money. We are at the first house. We should reverse the truck right up to the septic tank.
Kiitos vaan, ihan tyhjältä näyttää kaivo, että raas on ansainnut, että kiitos vaan, että
A
olen
nice
hyvä tässä.
easy 1200 marks. This is the second address, same procedure. Another 1,200 marks. Our fuel gauge is telling us that we desperately need fuel. I think we should fill her up. It would make sense for the long run. I bet this will cost a fortune. We also need to empty the shit tank. The price is going up and up and up and up. $991 marks for a tank of diesel. We also need to purchase some food while we are here. That cost over 1,048 marks. Let's see how much it will cost us to empty the tanker.
Joo. Ja se teki sitten niin paljon kuin...
What? 1,283 marks. That is more than I thought it would be. Open sesame. Done. Maybe we should do one more septic tank job before we go back home, and then we can order that carburetor. And now it's raining. This is the last septic tank job I'm doing today.
Jaa, se näyttäisi olevan valmis nyt.
Thanks,
Taas
mate.
rahat tästä.
Okay, I want to order the sports carburetor, the racing manifold, the sports exhaust tip, and the racing exhaust. Now, all I need to do is post it. That didn't take too long to get to the post office on the moped. A seriously underrated vehicle. And it's posted. Hey Timo,
Tervetuloa te... Ei kun sinäkö se vaan olitkin. Ihmiset valittaa, että kun ei oo rahaa oikein mitään ostoon. Voi kyllä ihmetyttää, että mitenkä sitä sitten siihen kaljaan riittää rahaa. Vaikka ei olevinaan oo rahaa, niin kyllä kaljaa.
so while we wait for our packages, let's make a coffee. And we may as well give Grandma the fish we have caught in our fish trap.
Siinä on sulle vähän rahaa, ota kun sinä kuitenkin sitä tarvit.
No se on Teimo täältä kaupasta terve. Mikä sinut tänne kirkonkylälle lennätti?
Now we finally have the new twin carburetors, we can remove the old air filter as we will no longer be needing it. The same goes for the old carburetor. And the old exhaust manifold. Now we can fit the new racing manifold. And the new twin carburetors. To tune the twin carburetor for the best air-to-fuel ratio, apparently, with a screwdriver, we tighten the screw 60 clicks. And then loosen it again by 25 clicks. I believe that the normal, stock carburetor is tightened by 50 clicks and then loosened again by 23 clicks. Now we can finally lower the completed engine onto the subframe. If you position the engine into the correct position, these bolts will appear. Tighten all 3 bolts with your 13mm spanner. There are 2 at the front of the subframe, and 1 at the back. Now you can tighten all 6 size 9 bolts on the drive shafts into the gearbox. As we have now finished with the engine hoist, we can unbolt it with the size 10 spanner and move it out the way. Now let's attach the electrics and tighten both size 8 bolts. Now it's the fuel strainer's turn. Tightened with a size 6 bolt. Next is our new racing radiator, attached with 4 size 7 bolts. Followed by the radiator hoses. 1, 2, and 3. And screw up all 5 screws with your screwdriver. Now to attach the clutch master cylinder and the brake master cylinder. They each have 2 size 8 nuts to tighten. Don't forget to tighten the size 9 bolts on the clutch and brake pedals. Now we need to attach the brake lining and also the clutch lining. For the clutch lining, it is just 2 7mm nuts. However, the brake lining has 11 7mm nuts, 4 of which are on the inside of each wheel hub, and the other 7 are along the back of the engine bay. Now, with the car over the pit, we can start attaching the fuel tank. It attaches with 7 11mm bolts. Remember to do up the 13mm nut to the fuel line and attach the pipe to the fuel filler point. Now to mount the exhaust pipe and secure it in place with the 3 size 7 bolts. 1 is at the back and 2 are by the manifold. The rear exhaust muffler attaches via a 1 7mm bolt. Now let's connect the gear linkage. It attaches with 2 size 5 nuts at the front and 1 more further up the engine. Now connect the gear stick. It attaches in place with 3 6mm bolts. Now the handbrake. This is fitted with 4 8mm bolts at the top and 1 5mm bolt underneath. Now you can fit the steering wheel. It is secured on the steering column with a 10mm nut. Now let's attach the dashboard. It is secured in place with 2 10mm bolts. Now for the dashboard display panel. You can fit either the clock gauge or the RPM gauge and lock it into place with the 2 7mm bolts. The car stereo just pops into place. To attach the panel to the rest of the dashboard, you will need to tighten the 2 6mm bolts. Now let's fit the seats. The rear bench seat is secured into place with 2 9mm bolts. The driver's seat is secured with 4 9mm bolts. And the front passenger seat is also attached with 4 9mm bolts. Now, pop into place the parcel shelf. And if you have them, both of the subwoofer speakers. Your aftermarket amplifier is mounted in the boot and is secured with 2 5mm bolts. The rear lights just slot into place. Now it's time to attach the front wings. They are each held onto the frame with 5 5mm bolts. Now let's tackle the electrics. Seat the battery on the holder, grab your 7mm spanner and disconnect the starter motor. Attach any optional gauges that you want. And then grab your wiring mess. Starting in the boot, connect the rear harness connector to the fuel tank. Then the rear harness connector to the right rear light. Then the rear harness connector to the left rear light. If you have gone for the upgraded sound system, connect the right subwoofer to the audio right on the amplifier. And then the left subwoofer to the audio left on the amp. Now the amp power to the radio harness. Then connect the radio to the amp audio. Next, we'll move to the engine bay. Let's start by connecting the front lights connector to the front right light socket. And the front lights connector to the front left light socket. We can now connect the front lights connector to the main harness connector. Now we can connect the main harness connector to the regulator. And the main harness connector to the positive terminal for the battery. Now, the main harness connector to the ignition coil. Now the radiator fan connector to the main harness connector. Now the fuse box to instrument panel 1. And the fuse box to instrument panel 2. Now the fuse box to the ignition switch. Now the radio harness to the radio. Now the dash harness connector to the light switch. Now if you have the extra gauges, connect them to the dashboard harness connector. The same goes for the AFR gauge. Connect it to the dashboard harness connector. Now the starter motor to the positive terminal for the battery. Now connect the negative terminal to the battery ground connector, earth. Finally, connect the regulator to the alternator. Now grab your 7mm spanner and reconnect the starter motor. There is now an additional 5mm nut to tighten on the starter motor after connecting the wiring. Tighten the 8mm bolt on the battery terminals. Remember to tighten the positive before the negative, or you will electrocute yourself. Now you can put your new headlight bulbs into the headlight casings and attach them to the car. They each have two 7mm bolts that need tightening. Now we can fill up the fluids. Let's start with the engine coolant. Now, the engine oil. The clutch fluid. And both brake fluid bottles. At this stage, it is always a good idea to check for leaks. Now we need to put some petrol in the fuel tank. Next, we can clip on our mud flaps. Let's see if she starts. We have power. Let's give it some choke. Here we go. First ever cold start. The battery hasn't got much left. Result. Let's just quickly fine-tune the air-to-fuel ratio. That's much better. And get the distributor into the right position. That'll do for the test. Now let's fit the rest of the body panels. The front and rear bumpers fit on with two size 8 bolts each. The front grille secures on with 2 size 6 bolts. Now for the doors, they both secure onto the body with 4 size 10 bolts. The boot lid attaches to the car with 4 size 6 bolts. Finally, the bonnet also attaches with 4 size 6 bolts. And last but not least, the most important part, the turbo badge. And that is our Satsuma fully built. Let's take the car out on the road and celebrate its maiden voyage by selling Killdew to the drunk guy. Okay, the Killdew is loaded in the boot. Time to go. Safety first. Starts first time. We are here. This car drives like a dream. Drunk guy, have I got a treat for you?
Jumalauta, tämä täydellistä kiljoa.
Exactly. May as well fill the jerry can up.
Tervetä jympätystä ja kitaran renkutusta ja tämmöstä, niin eihän tuommoista.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.